morning, everyone. Thank you for being here again for our weekly SonRise Project call and support group, where we are a safe space, always filled with love and compassion and a desire to heal ourselves and our families. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And this morning, on this beautiful Sunday, it has been quite a morning, but I'm still happy to be here. You heard my little dog Gigi in the background. She's excited for the day too. And for our very special guest, our very, very special guest, Paul Bache Williams. He is a licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist, keynote speaker, relationship advisor, business owner, entrepreneur, corporate consultant, and author of two books called The Father's Journal, and then the second book, Dear Future Wife, A Man's Guide and a Woman's Reference to Healthy Relationships, which I will be purchasing both of those. As a business owner, he owns and operates Hearts in Mind Counseling, which is a mental health private practice that specializes in marriage, family, couples, and individual therapy, helping others address their mental health and wellness needs. He is well sought after to provide corporate coaching and consulting, helping companies also address mental health and design safe spaces while ensuring company growth through strategic planning. His writing, keynote speaking, and trainings have been internationally recognized and featured in and on CNN, HBO, A&E, Gilead, the American College, law firms, churches, universities, Essence, BET, Bustle, Roland Martin Show, Huffington Post. I could go on and on. You get the picture. He is everywhere. And he also has been seen on ABC, NBC, Fox, CBC, and in conferences all over the world. Our guest attended East Tennessee State University in Johnson City, Tennessee, for both his undergraduate and graduate studies in social work, where he was awarded and inducted into the Hall of Fame as a distinguished alumnus for community impact. Woo, that's a lot, and it's incredible. In addition to that, he is also the founder of What's Good Bro, Brotherhood Mental Health Check-In, which was featured on HBO in partnership with the premiere of the documentary Yusuf Hawkins' Storm Over Brooklyn. He has been hailed by Men's Health magazine as a top therapist to follow, and his goal is to influence healthy relationships with self and others by having comprehension, compromise, consideration, and an understanding of how people interact with one another. In addition, I found out this morning that he has two children, a 19-year-old son at Towson State University, here for HBCUs, and a 26-year-old daughter who just got married last weekend. So congratulations on all of that good stuff. And I am delighted to have you here. Welcome, Bache. Pleasure to be here, having you here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate being here this morning. I do have one correction. He goes to Towson University. He doesn't go to a HBCU.
Okay. My bad. That's okay. We still
I almost got him to go, but no, he didn't. And I didn't either. So, I mean,
So East Tennessee State, I was thinking Tennessee State, and so East Tennessee State is not. But you know what? It's all good. The fact that he's in college is incredible and a blessing. So, and wherever people choose to go, even if it's not that, we love them all.
Right.
And so we're happy to have you here. And I want to ask you, first question, what exactly is an intellectual emotionalist?
Yeah, that's something I came up with years ago, and I kind of went away from it. I thought I was being too dramatic when I came up with the term, but it actually fits, right? And because my goal was to connect logic with emotion, right? If I can be intellectually present while being emotionally present, then I can understand what I'm feeling and also understand what I'm thinking. So being able to connect the two helps me to be more balanced. Like one doesn't sway me to the right, and while I'm ignoring the left. So it's sitting in the middle and understanding. And then it helps me relate with other people too, right? If I'm talking to someone who's maybe emotionally aroused, I can connect with that and say, oh, I understand you're feeling this way. What do you need from me what do you need from me so you know that I understand what you're feeling, but also want to be aware of the environment and think logically and intellectually. Um,
Mm.
it's a combination of the both.
I love it. And so the connection of logic to emotion, is that the focus of your practice? Like when you're dealing with couples, do you find that most men are dealing one and women dealing the other?
Yeah, that is the surface level, right? But we all
Mhm.
do emotion. It's just understanding which emotions are present. A lot of times I use an emotional will because when somebody said they're angry, what's under that anger? Usually hurt, disappointment, they're disparaged or whatever that is, confused. And so once you understand the underlying emotion, we can have a better conversation. So when
Mm,
you did this, this made me feel this way, right? If we can have that conversation, as opposed to saying, I'm angry, I hate you,
right,
you got to really describe what's really happening.
right.
Both sides are emotionally charged. It just shows up different.
It shows up different. That's so deep to me. I was sharing earlier, I recently gone through a divorce and it's been very amicable and very um compassionate. And
Mm.
to your point about dealing with emotions and the intellectual side, I think I didn't know that's what it was called until this morning, having an intellectual emotion, but it's so powerful. I think I read a book called Conscious Uncoupling, and it really helped with, I think, that. It wasn't termed that. So I love that whole thought of intellectual emotionalist. That's awesome. When did you know you were passionate about this space? And how long have you been helping people relate to one another?
I think when I first really recognized it, it was little hints of I wanted to work with couples, maybe in high school, college.
Mm,
Everyone came to me about their issues in their relationships. Different people discuss different problems, and I was able to give them resolution because I was withdrawn from their relationship, so I could see it from a different lens.
mm,
And I always wanted people to have harmonious relationships. I was always trying to fix things, right? Oh, I see you're
mhm,
doing this is impacting him, this is impacting her. So it was tidbits of that passion. But once I took a marriage class in my sophomore year,
mhm,
like this is it. This is what I
mm,
really want to do. Because you grow up in different neighborhoods. Like my parents had a dysfunctional marriage.
mm,
You see dysfunctional marriages around you in the family, in the neighborhoods, a lot of single mom homes. So something needed to be fixed, right? My peers and my friends were struggling. Dad wasn't at home. My dad was in and out at one time. So something was missing. So I said that I wanted to be I wanted to be a change agent and part of the solution. And I also wanted to create an environment where my children would never experience the missing of a parent, right? The lack of what love looks like in the movie theaters, right? Let's create that. Why can't it be real? So that was my goal initially until I really understood the process of connecting with people.
I love that. So it wasn't until you took a class, and you've been doing this ever since. You've been working in this space ever since.
Yes, I actually, when I was young, we had a social worker come into, I lived in a low income neighborhood. We had a social worker come there and he did groups. And he used to always pull me from the back of the group because I used to sit there with my hood on and not really participate. So he used to always call me up to the front and help me facilitate the whole group. So I was like, why you always call me? He's like, is there something in you that's really there that you really need to pay attention to? But of course, I was too young. And when you talked about the social work field at that particular time was a lot of ignorance. So I was once ignorant and it was like there's no money in it. So why would I pursue something that doesn't have any money? Yes, there's emotional value, there's change, there's impact, there's community connection and all of that. But at that particular time at a young age, I'm thinking about money. Like I want to get out of my environment and I want to be able to
Mhm.
provide my
Right.
family differently. But once I learned the whole concept and the whole everything about the field, then I understood, okay, this is something that I could invest in and I
Mm,
could run from it because it was calling me in every aspect of my life.
that's so deep. And do you have, and I think it's amazing, and I love that you're doing this because so few Black people are in this field, and you know all the stats, I'm sure. So it's important to have people that look like us.
Right.
And you have a whole firm of people that do work. Can you share about your firm and how that works? And do you work with young people? Do you work with people
Yes.
like our children?
Yeah, so we work from ages like 6, since it's harder to do virtual with younger kids, but we work from like 6 on up to 80. To a
Okay.
wide range of demographic. I have 4 men and 4 women who are licensed clinicians that provide therapy. We do individuals, we do couples, we do
Mm,
family, we do group practices. We do pretty much everything. We also do some community involvement. And so sometimes we go into the community, we do psychoeducation, do mock courses or mock sessions, provide different resources, connect them to other therapists if we're full. So we try to get out there, right? I think once we bring it to the community, they're more aware and they see what therapy looks like. That's
mhm.
always been my goal, and that's become
Yes,
our goal.
yes, and they see people that look like them,
Right.
right? And they see people who understand from lived experience, I think. And so your people can find out information about you at bashewilliams.com. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. On there, you can go to the therapy website. My actual therapy website is Hearts and Mind Counseling. That's Hearts IN Mind MIND counseling.com. And there you can see our
Okay.
bios, you can see what we do, um, and you can check us out.
Awesome. And Dee, Sapp put our executive director put the link in the chat, Hearts in Mind, Hearts, and then INMIND counseling.com. So that's in the chat as well. Um, go ahead. Were you about to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay. So, can you share with us any time that you experienced, a challenging relationship or situation and some tangible steps that got you to the other side? It could be with a personal relationship or a child. You mentioned having a 19-year-old son. Many of us have young adult children and would love to just get an example or some things that you may have done in your own personal life to really create a space for a relationship, a
You,
positive relationship.
you just need one or you need all 20.
Okay.
Uh,
1, 2, 3, 5.
I can, and well, romantic relationships. Again, if I'm coming into the space because I needed to heal some of my own wounds without, at one point I didn't realize I had them.
Hmm.
My wound was the rescuer, and I wanted to rescue and fix anything
Yes.
I saw or I deemed or assumed was deficient. All my friends used to say I always picked someone who had a significant challenge that nobody else wanted to take on,
Mhm.
right? So
That was your type.
yeah, I was the hero. I wanted to be the hero because the hero is needed.
Hmm.
And so I want to go into relationships and again, I would choose
Hmm.
wrong. Um, and I had to really sit with myself. Like, why am I trying to save the day when I need to work on myself? Like if somebody, say I'm dating someone, we're in a relationship, they lose their job, they lose their apartment. Hey, come live with me. I'll take care of you until we can get you on your feet. And knowing good and well that at that particular time that I didn't have the resources, nor the capacity, nor the ability to really save the day. Um, and it turned out bad typically, right? Because you're moving in together for the wrong reasons. You're not moving in together to have a healthy relationships to establish a future. You're moving in because one needs a place to stay, the other one needs to be the person that looks like the hero in the story, right? So the codependency that was
Hmm.
in my relationships, and what I had to really identify is what's happening with me. And what I really recognized was I was trying to heal my parents' relationships, right? I was trying to
Hmm.
feel needed and wanted and feel like dependent on. And I had to check that and know that I need to give that to myself, right?
Hmm.
And so once I began to do that, then things change. You have boundaries, right? You tell yourself that if they have a problem, maybe you can be a resource. You don't have to be the source, right? Um,
Mm, maybe you can be say that again. Maybe
you
you
can
can
be a
be.
resource, but you don't have to be
Mhm,
the source, or you can outsource. That's the That's the other one. Well, here's where you need to go because they have the answer for you, and let me know if that works. If not, then I can help you figure something else out, or you can figure something else out. But I don't have to be the answer to everything, right?
That
Because
is powerful.
then you're exhausted, right? And then you're resentful because when it's your turn, right, they can't
Mm.
match that because initially they really didn't expect that, and they didn't ask for you to do all of that. You made the decision to do that yourself, and now you're upset that they're not showing up for you the way that you want them to show up for you.
But we set it up that way,
Yeah,
right?
right,
And so
right.
on both sides, set up some things and
Mhm.
that are not, yeah, we
Yeah,
set up things based on our personal needs or deficiencies.
right, right.
That's so deep. Okay.
So I had this. One of the things that worked for me is to sit with myself. So I took some time to myself and I called it like my wilderness year, where I made myself the person that needed to be fixed, the person that needed to get the healing, the person that needed to be rescued.
Mm, mm.
And I did a variety of different things. Self-care day, like it's still up now. Monday is my self-care day. It started out my day of no because I used to say yes to everybody and everything.
Mhm,
Monday, I said no to every single thing that was outside of me
mm,
on purpose. It could be something as small as, can you open a door? The answer was no, right? I had to practice externally saying no because I was comfortable internally saying no because anytime you say yes to someone else, you're saying no to yourself.
That's deep.
So
And we
that,
say yes to everybody all the time, probably. Most of the time. I think most moms and dads, get used to being the Uber driver, get used to making dinner, serving and helping everybody else.
mhm,
Then we become last.
yeah, yeah.
Mm,
That was the first response. It was like the initial response was like, no. But then it turned into boundaries, then it turned into self-care. So now it's a self-care day. So
mm,
Monday is my self-care day is I give myself what I need, right?
mm,
I get to sleep in, I don't do work. Um, I don't answer calls. My phone is on do not disturb. On my answer machine, it says, if you call me on Monday, I am off. This is my self-care day, and I will call you 24 hours starting at 12 midnight on Tuesday.
wow.
So that gives myself permission to do that. And also it sets a boundary. And I'm not having a conversation with someone saying that, hey, this is my self-care day. I set the boundary, let people wrestle with the boundary. I don't have to keep wrestling with people.
Oh, that's so good. And that's an out of office response and
Mhm.
on your voicemail.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Mhm.
That's great.
So, and I'm also teaching the people around me what I need, right? And how to love me and how to honor me.
Mm,
And sometimes they check me if I'm outside of my own boundary, right?
wow.
Outside of my own covenant with myself to say, well, why are you doing that? Today's self-care day.
Mm, that's great.
So
And
it's good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Vicky's writing, let other people wrestle with your boundaries.
Yeah.
I love that. That's powerful. If we say these are our boundaries, this is what I'm going to do. It could be Sunday, it could be Monday, it could be any day, or it could be something else. It could be 5 hours, right?
Yeah. Whatever works for you, right? When I help some of the clients who can't necessarily do a whole day, like how do we find pockets of self-care? Like, do you
Mhm.
get up? Like, how our therapy hour is 45 minutes, right? It's 42 to 45 is the therapy hour. Those 15 minutes in time is for us to do notes, to get up, stretch, go get some coffee, get some water, whatever we need to do. And I give other people the suggestion to create that within their day. Like you're working, give yourself 15 minutes, stand up, stretch, right? Go for a walk, go outside.
So
Get
do 45 minutes, not back-to-back hours like I do, and end up saying, I need a minute. I'll be right back. I need a
right,
break.
right, right.
That's
That's
awesome.
because what's happening is you're responding, right? You're reacting instead of setting up a place where it's already in place where that is your minute, that is your time, that is your space. You're
Mhm.
not reacting to being overwhelmed.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
already have you already have that time put in place where you're pouring into yourself and you're giving yourself permission to say, this is okay for me. Some people have that guilt for taking vacation, have that guilt
Mhm.
for saying no. This, if it's already in practice, then you're honoring yourself and other people will honor as well. Even if you work
Right.
for someone, right? This is the system that makes me more effective, right? For
Mhm.
me at work, this is how
Mhm.
I produce the best.
Mm.
You gotta be able to have the psychological safety, but you also have to be able to have the communication ahead of time to say, this is what I need in order for me to be my best for you.
Mhm. The communication, I think, is the hard part. That is one of the hard parts, is the communication for many of us, because I think sometimes we either become workaholics and just pour ourselves into work, or sometimes we become quiet and just choose not to have what could be a fight, you know?
Yeah.
How do you, well, I want to ask something else because you said something a little bit ago about you knew that you had to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
What was the impetus for that? Because most of the time, it seems like there's a traumatic situation that causes this transformation. So did you have a traumatic situation, or what made you say I need to go away and focus on myself?
Well, I kept getting into the same relationships. It seemed like it was a never ending story.
Mm,
It started off great. I was the hero in the relationship, and then all of a sudden I was
mm,
the villain. But nothing
mm,
was different in my behavior, right? Because I was giving so much. And then once I got burnt out and I'm asking for something back, then it was a problem. So it's like, maybe I'm the one who's doing too much. It's not them, they're just receiving it and they're responding and reacting to me saying, hey, I need something from you when we already created
mm,
this cycle and this pattern
mm, mm.
of me
Right,
pouring out.
right.
So there's been many, especially the endings, like the traumatic, just me just saying no. There have been, again, when I'm choosing people that I'm saving a day, there have been people who have physically responded through, punching a hole in the wall because I said no, right? There has been just a variety of things. I'll think about like my first college relationship is where I started Dear Future Wife, and everybody knows this story. If you follow Dear Future Wife, I started it back in 2000. I was in a relationship. The girl I was dating, she lived in Maryland. I was in school in Tennessee. She had challenges with her mom and home, and so I advocated for her to come to East Tennessee State and enroll in school. And I was faithful the first semester. Everybody knew I was affiliated with the basketball team. So I had a lot of attention, right? So I was like, but I'm faithful. I was a nice guy. I was cool. It's like, no, my girlfriend's back at home. Why would I cheat? But
Mhm.
she's all the way in Tennessee. Faith, if being faithful doesn't matter, it's just long distance doesn't matter. Like I'm faithful and I'm everything. And everybody knew that. You go to my apartment, her picture's on the wall, our letters are on the wall. Um, and so everything looked great, right? And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden she comes to the school and then she cheats on me.
Oh,
So I'm like, oh, this is what life is like, right? Exactly.
right.
Oh, and then it becomes a thing because it's not a HBCU. It's a predominantly white school, but everybody that's black knows each other. So she's on me with this one dude, and it I wasn't even mad at him. I was devastated by what she did, and I was embarrassed. So from that point on, I had to take a semester off of school because I was so embarrassed, and I was like, I got to get myself together. Like I can't be this hero guy. Well, I can't be this nice guy. I can't be this romantic person anymore because it's not safe in college.
Mm,
Friends told me some stuff about her that they wish they
mm,
would have told me before, but I probably would have been even more heroic if I would have known
mhm.
those things. But from that point on, I told myself that love is for paper, it's not for giving out to another person. So I
Wow.
started writing Dear Future Wife, but I had no emotional connection. Or when I got close to people, I would pull back, or I would let them know ahead of time. This is college. Look, we need to just get our education. You want to hang out, we can hang out. If not, not. So that's where it was. But I still had these romantic ideas and this love for love. So I put it in paper. So whenever I felt something for someone else, instead of giving it to them, I wrote Dear Future Wife, blah, blah, blah. Dear Future Wife,
Mm,
blah, blah, blah. And then it eventually turned into a book. It was a blog and a book. Uh,
mm.
but for years, I purposely sabotaged relationships. So if you got close to me, I said,
Wow.
remember what I said in the beginning?
Yes.
This is not happening.
Mhm.
So it didn't happen until
Mm,
I graduated. I said, once I graduate, I will find the love of my life.
mm.
And so when I graduated, I met another traumatic thing happened emotionally and psychologically traumatic is finding out that my father wasn't the father I always thought he was. Right. I
Oh,
found out that I had a younger brother. I never
wow.
knew. So that I was devastated because the way I found out was
Mm,
my sister's best friend, excuse me, was trying to date me. And she said, who would you want to be? What type of man, what type of father, what type of husband would you want to be? I was like, oh, like my father, that's easy.
mm,
And she says, do you know you have a younger brother? Do you know this? Do you know that? And I'm like, no, I don't
wow.
know any of that.
Mm,
And here's a person outside of my family that knows these details. Everyone around me knows these details except for me.
wow.
So I'm walking around with this blind spot. And once I
Mm,
found that out, it was just like immediately devastating. Family couldn't really give me answers. They told me I was too young. I'm in college. Like I just graduated college. Like, why am I too young to really know what's going on? And
mhm,
they felt that they were protecting me.
mhm.
But I was devastated. Again, I was left
Yeah.
out, right? And from that point on, I just said my goal was to have a family and show my family what a family looks like. Now I'm
Mhm,
dealing with this wound, the old wound from the breakup. I'm dealing with the old wound that's there's some autonomous relationship. There's this lack of really understanding what family looks like and how to really practice it, what a husband, what a father looks like. And now I'm
mhm,
trying to prove, and now I'm trying to overcompensate, and now I'm trying to heal
mhm,
this wound through the next person I meet. So I meet this young lady, and she has family trauma. So we're trauma bonding, and we're like, let's
mhm.
have a child. We met in February, had found out we're pregnant by July, and didn't know each other. And I was on my way back to grad school.
Wow.
So, and we broke up while we we're in grad school, still had our child, tried to get engaged. That didn't work. We didn't know each other. So that relationship lasted. I ended that when our son was real young, just because of the lack of respect for me as a father. Uh,
Mm,
and this was my chance, right, to be a father and be consistent. It was just a lack of respect. And that was traumatic. That whole
mhm,
custody
mhm.
process from age 3 to 18.
Wow. Oh, recent. Mhm.
Yeah. So that was one of the most devastating things that I've consistently experienced throughout my life. And
Wow.
I had to learn, probably because I ended up filing for custody. I was awarded joint custody. But even with that, like going to the school and picking them up on my time, police being called, I have to provide the court order to the school. Just so many different traumatic events with that.
Mm,
My son recently found out. He found out everything. I didn't have to tell him, but he just overheard her talking to someone saying that I wasn't in his life, and he was devastated. Right. So now I have to help him process his experiences. Now he's understanding what's been happening behind closed doors for all these years.
mm.
I'm nurturing some of the wounds um, that he's just recently experienced.
Wow.
But that was another, traumatic just experience alone. But what I really understood then is that as much as I wanted to effectively co-parent, doing all the right things, if a person doesn't respect you or doesn't want to, or doesn't know how to, it's not going to work. So I learned to parallel parent. And that's where everything was met, drop off pickups at school, maybe at a relative's house, no communication, because it was
Mm,
just so dysfunctional and it
mm.
wasn't healthy. And it wasn't something that I needed to experience, and it wasn't something that our son needed to see or experience as well.
That's tough
Mhm.
for your son.
Yeah.
I have so many questions about that, but you answered my initial question, which was what prompted you to say I need to go focus on self. It was the situation in college with the woman who cheated on you, and then the situation with your son, who you've had this very long traumatic situation with his mother,
Mhm.
and and now you're helping him work through his trauma at only 19.
Right. Right.
That's
He's been nurtured though. He's been very good. It was just him finding that out and feeling like his question was, why would you say that when he's always been an example? He's always been there. He's the reason why I'm going into the mental health field. He's
mm,
paying for college. He's doing all the things, right? All the things a father should do.
yeah.
And all the things that I love to do. Like I love to show up for
Mhm.
others. Why
Yeah,
would I show up for my son?
right.
Mm, he's just really just hearing that way was
Mm,
devastating for him. Um,
yeah.
he's much better now.
Well, that's a blessing. And you are clearly a blessing for his life to him. So that's wonderful. And the fact that you are so open and honest about that, and the fact that you had to take time for yourself. And I
Mhm,
love what someone just wrote, dealing with and healing old wounds while nurturing new wounds, something that you said. That's so key and
mhm,
important. So can you share, like, when you are dealing with your son? And again, I'm saying this and asking the question out of the spirit of a lot of the people here are parents dealing with children who may have gone through something traumatic or may have done something that we viewed as negative, but really was not that big of a deal. And
mhm,
my son used to smoke pot, smoke weed in high school, and I thought it was the worst thing in the world ever, and punished him constantly and did a bunch of things to try to get him to stop. When
mhm,
I now realize what you said earlier, the issue was not his issue. He was self-medicating for things that um his dad and I would do in terms of punishing that behavior and really punishing him as a person was how we were viewing it at the time versus the behavior, which really wasn't a big deal. But back to you and your son, um, when you talk with him, like how do you help him get past the trauma? What are some tangible ways you've helped him? Is it communication constantly? Is it telling him you love him? What are some of the tools?
yeah, one of the well, there's so many things that I did, but I was always present, right? I always was interested in the things that he liked.
Okay.
My day shut down when it's his time.
Mm,
From if we're getting ready for school, what do you want to hear? What do you want to listen to? We had our morning routine, our prayer, his breakfast. We're quiet, no TV in the background, just us just talking, getting
mm,
prepared for the day. Um, if after school, what do you want to listen to on the way back home? Because he had him in private school. He used to like to read.
mm,
So I had to sit in the car, and I love to listen to music when I'm driving,
mm,
but he needed silence because he liked to read.
yeah.
So I had to honor that and just allow him to have his space, right?
Mm,
Different things that he loved to do. Even he wanted me to sit there and watch him play video games.
yeah. Oh,
Right?
that's nice. He wanted your presence.
Yeah, yeah. And he wanted to make sure, and I'll tell you this, he loved the movie Cars, and he
Oh,
would watch it 10 times a day, and he would make sure that I'm watching it with him. So he would
mhm.
literally look over and saying, "Are you watching it with me?" I was like, "Yes, I'm watching it with you." And then he would peek to see if I'm watching it with him.
Uh-huh.
And he wanted to pay attention. And I think a lot of times those little things we
Yeah.
tend to disconnect. We
Mhm.
miss opportunities to stay present to our children because that's what they like to do, right? It's repetitive. Oh, they're just going to do this. They're just going to do that. We miss those opportunities. So being present was one of the things that I did with him at all times. I was interested
Mm.
in what he did. I found those things. Even when I say video games, he loved cars. The one that I got him, you had to read in order to get to the next level,
That's
right?
what she loves to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's presence, that's such a key, because
Yeah.
that I think so many of us are on the phone or we're now post-COVID doing Zooms and, a young person might come in the room, it's like, I need you to go away for a second, I'm on the call.
Mhm.
And that, I think people internalize, even
Yeah.
though it's like, yeah, mom has to do a call right now, but I'll be right with you, and then trying to shift to
Yeah.
be present or put the phone down when you walk in the house.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did a lot of different things to make sure that he felt like it was a priority. Even jobs when he was younger, I chose jobs that they didn't pay as much, but they were flexible because I wanted to be there
Mm,
for every activity, If they needed me, I wanted to be able to pick them up, take them to school and pick them up from school and take them home. So I
Yeah.
had a schedule that catered to that. But that was just some of the things that I did just to always be there for him. That didn't mean I didn't have a life. I just worked around it, right? You're in a
Right.
co-parenting situation, and not everybody has that. But there were opportunities. I had family that helped out. But I made sure
Mhm.
whenever he was with me, he knew I was with him.
Right. That's great.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I did, and just giving him a voice too. I think sometimes our old school parenting, our parents used to tell us we don't have a voice. It's whatever
Mhm.
I say. It's what I say, and
That's right.
I'll talk back. And it's not about talking back. It's about being curious about what
Mm,
you're experiencing, what you're thinking, and
mm,
and allowing them to have a voice and allowing them to have an understanding, because sometimes they make sense, right?
mm,
Right? They need to know why you can't do this particular thing. And his consequence was, like, if he disappointed me, he is devastated, right? If
mhm.
he did something out of character, then we're going to go talk about it immediately. We'll come to the side, we'll go where it's quiet, and it's like, okay, let me know what's going on with that. Why would you do that? That
Yeah.
doesn't remove any consequences from it, but I need to understand it, and you need to understand why you're getting a consequence and why that's not okay.
Right. So it's getting curious and asking the why behind the what. Is that what that's the, yeah, getting curious. I think that's a really powerful,
Mhm.
just doing that and asking why. Those are some of the most powerful things we can do as parents.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
without punishing, it's getting curious. I
Yeah.
love that. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that people know if they want to ask a question. And if you're on your phone, you can hit *6 to come off of mute, or you can put a question in the chat if you like. It looks like someone might be off of mute. Did you have a question? I see. I like to respect people's privacy if they choose. So the initials are MJ. Did you have a question or a comment this morning? I see you're off of mute, so I wanted to see if you did. If not, that's okay. We'll keep chatting. But if anybody does have a comment for Bashe or question, feel free to jump in right now. But I'm happy to continue the conversation because it's helping me this morning. And I was sharing with you earlier. This morning has been quite a morning. Like my little puppy is sick, and I'm not used to sick animals. So
Mhm.
there's a whole mess in my house, and I'm working on trying to stay calm and breathe through it um, and deal with that. In addition, one of my sons is here and want to deal with him in a way that's loving and peaceful and kind, and walked out in the kitchen and there's stuff everywhere. It's like an explosion. And I'm
Mhm.
thinking, how do I just say, okay, so it's easy just to put the things away, put them in the dishwasher, and not have a fuss fest, when I do see him later this morning. So I think focusing on self,
Mhm.
breathing through it, and having compassion is also really important.
Mhm.
How much of your practice is focused on relationships and, romantic relationships versus family?
So we have two or three that focus on romantic relationships. I mainly focus on a lot of romantic relationships, marriages, dating, engaged, even going through divorce and trying to figure it out. How are we going to manage our co-parenting, our dynamic, whatever we need? I focus a lot on that, and I also have a marriage and family therapist that does as well. And another young lady, actually another gentleman that focuses on relationships as well. So, and then everyone else focuses on individually and family. We all have a little bit of experience in that, but the main focus on romantic family relationships is myself, Carlisle, Tammy Lee, um Nikita Lawrence. They focus on relationships.
On mute, my dog started barking. All of that information for all the different people are on your website.
Yes, if you go to
Okay.
the website and you go to About Us, you'll see
Mhm.
us on there.
Awesome. Okay. There is a question in the chat that says, can you please share some tools to repair fractured relationships with young adult children when they are resistant or withholding?
Mhm. So I guess, I mean, we go back to getting curious, right? Why are they resistant and why are they withholding? What
Mhm.
is the safe space to them? Like, what do they need from you to open up? Maybe it's not you that they can open up to, but maybe you provide a resource. So when you think about to getting them to open up, then maybe you do it in an environment where they feel safe, right? You have other people, because a lot of times the younger generation, they like to emulate their environment. It was what fosters them to open up. So maybe there's a group, maybe there's something, they have friends in their family where they can open up to because they feel safer, they don't feel judged, right? And sometimes with a repair, there is an apology. A lot of times parents,
Apology by the parent
yeah,
to the young person?
a lot of times
Mhm.
we don't apologize. We don't apologize as parents because we feel like we have all the answers, we made all the right decisions, we know what's best. But apology shows empathy. Apology shows vulnerability, and an apology shows that you're available, right? If we are the person who has all the answers, then we don't allow them to give us any answers that they may have. So repair also looks like with a question, right? You start with a question. What do you ask them? What do you need from me to repair this relationship? What does a repaired relationship look like?
Mm,
Because you might want to go back into that young state on the parent child dynamic, but that no longer exists because they're older, they have experiences, right? And they need
mhm,
their voice, and
mhm,
they need to be able to share their opinions, their thoughts, their feelings, their
mhm,
emotions without
mhm.
being shut down,
Right.
because they still hear those things that they've experienced with you younger. They still hear that same voice. It replays over and over again. This is how
Mhm,
mom is.
mhm,
This is how dad is. I know if I go to them, they're going to automatically shut it down, because I remember that one time when I tried to open up and they didn't let me talk. So they are reliving the trauma and the experience.
mhm, mhm. Right. So it's a reset. It's actually apologizing with the question, starting with the question. So what do you need for us to repair this relationship? Is that right?
Yeah. What do you need for us to repair this relationship? And what does a repaired relationship look like?
And where does the apology come in that same?
If there's been a fracture, right? And I'm sure there's been a fracture somewhere, whether it's been subconsciously, consciously, on purpose, not on purpose, there has been some type of fracture in the relationship. And so if
Right.
I can say, whatever I did, I apologize. If I came off wrong, if I haven't parented you right, if I've done some things, if I've ignored you, um, please let me know, because I
Right.
want to repair that. Is there anything
Mhm.
that you feel that I need to apologize for?
Mm,
Right? Instead of us, again, sometimes we're apologizing for something they may not be offended by.
right.
So asking them, what is something that I've done or some things that I've done that have harmed you in our relationship?
Right. I love that. I think an apology makes all the difference in all relationships. And I love how you say, I'm apologizing for my role in this,
Yes.
what I have contributed to
Right.
this challenge.
Yes. Yes.
Right as I'm chatting, there goes Gigi. So thank you for that question in the chat. Here's another question. How do you balance disciplining your emotions while going through a divorce without it negatively affecting your teenager? I'm trying to remain positive and deal with the trauma while ensuring my child doesn't have to experience any unnecessary unnecessary dysfunction.
So those are a couple of different things, right? Because you
Mhm.
can't hide your emotions, you can't pretend like you're okay. And sometimes you have to walk with them through it. And sometimes you have to have a conversation with them. You're saying, mommy or daddy is not feeling well today. This is really hard for me. I'm sure this is really hard for you. This might be an opportunity for you guys to get close, right? There's something called, I can't think of the second word all of a sudden, crisis intimacy. That's what it is. Like when a family is going through a crisis, they get closer.
Mm,
So
mhm,
you don't want to pretend like you're not feeling it. Of course, you don't want to overshare and say, well, this person did this, and this is why. No, that's not what we're doing. But we're talking about loss, right? We're grieving the loss of a relationship. So everybody's experiencing that. Mom, dad, child, What can we do together? Can I provide, again, a resource? Can I get you in therapy? You can share with them, I'm in therapy. If you are, I'm in therapy processing these emotions because this is a lot. This is not what I wanted. This is not what I expected. Um, this wasn't planned. I didn't get married to get divorced, right? So you're not putting them in the fire, but you're explaining the smoke in a sense.
Oh, I love that. Not putting them in the fire, but explaining the smoke. And it's delicate.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So a conversation with them is needed, right?
And an
And
open, honest conversation.
yeah, and give
Mhm.
them the space to share what they've seen, what they've seen, what they've experienced, right? And again, here comes that apology. I'm sorry you're experiencing this. I'm experiencing this as well. I'm sorry you saw different things. If they have, and getting their perspective, right?
I love that, and it starts with being open and honest, telling the truth,
Yeah,
with limits, if
right.
there's things that you don't want them to know about whatever may have transpired, but telling the truth about your feelings, and you talked about that earlier, that feelings wheel that you use with your clients. How are you feeling? Like,
Mhm.
I feel it's difficult and challenging,
Yeah,
and yet we're gonna get through this. I
yeah,
think that's important. I love the comment around crisis intimacy.
mhm,
I I see that
yeah.
really. I get that completely.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Um, Anything else you'd love to share? Any other comments or questions from people this morning? I'm looking at the chat to see if anything else is in here. Shared relationships. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people here, but people are quiet and listening and probably absorbing the conversation and all of your tools and wisdom this morning. I think my big takeaways are being present, super critical,
Mhm,
um, resetting, having an opportunity and choosing to reset a
mhm,
relationship,
mhm.
and apologizing.
Also, apologize to yourself. I think there are a
Mhm,
lot of times when we don't apologize to ourselves, we forgive others as
mhm,
well, more than we forgive
mhm.
ourselves, and the unforgiveness of ourselves holds our hope. We hold ourselves hostage in certain
Right,
situations, relationships, moments because we have not forgiven ourselves. We have not told ourselves we deserve different.
that part.
So we stay in the same cycle,
Mhm.
and it's so unfortunate. But the practice of forgiveness is actually saying, right? Looking in the mirror and saying, I forgive you. When that thing that pops up and reminds you of the decision that you made, that impacted you or impacted somebody else, maybe it wasn't the best decision. When it comes up, those negative thoughts, I forgive you for that over and over again, because that's what we have to do anyway with other people. And that's how we stay connected with other people, because we forgive over and over again. Forgiveness is a process, and forgiveness is an act, and forgiveness is a decision. And forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation either. And I'm thinking about other people. I know I'm kind of tapping in other different places, but if somebody does something intentionally to harm you and you decide to forgive them, forgiveness doesn't mean that you stay in that relationship. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you operate the way that you used to. Forgiveness says, I forgive you. I'm not holding a grudge, but there's a boundary there now, and there's also a consequence.
Right. That part, boundaries, consequences, forgiveness, forgiving self, choosing to forgive ourselves and forgive others, but starting with ourselves. And also, I would say, and I would ask your opinion about this, a lot of people play victim,
Mhm,
have this victim mentality. I can't believe this happened or that happened. But isn't it a choice? If we're choosing to be in a situation, it's a choice that we're making
mhm.
versus playing victim. I'd like your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so it's different, right? It's different instances when we talk about victim, right? If you've been harmed, then you're a victim.
Yes, very different. That's different. Mhm.
If you're talking about you're in a relationship where things happen over and over again and you consider yourself a victim, consider yourself choosing to stay in an environment that's not helpful for you, right?
That's right. Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So you can stay in the environment, but you have to show up different, right?
Right.
You have to communicate to that thing that is unhealthy that this no longer serves me. So in order for me to stay present in this relationship, we have to change how we interact. you have to change how you treat me, right? Because I don't want to just always react, and then we have these explosive experiences with each other. Um, we have to change some things, right, in order for me to stay connected to you.
Right. And
So you,
that's where it begins, making choices. We have to choose for our life, and every day is a new possibility for a different choice or a new choice
right,
or a better choice. We're starting with choosing ourselves and
right,
our own happiness, right? I mean,
right.
that's the key because of, yeah. So, all of that. There is a question that says, does your counseling service offer virtual appointments for people that
Yes,
might not be? Yes, the
you're
answer is
all,
yes.
yes, we are all virtual.
100% virtual. Okay.
100% virtual. We haven't had enough people for me to open my offices back up yet. I'll get one or two to say, can you do in person? But that'll be it. So it's just not enough for me to open up my offices.
Wonderful. That's great. So there's the answer. And the website is in the chat, but just for anybody that may have joined a little bit later, it is Hearts in Mind Counseling, heartsinmindcounseling.com.
Yes.
Hearts, I-N, mindcounseling.com.
And we've been talking a lot about trauma, and I always want to kind of
Mhm,
put this in here. When you've experienced some trauma, right, it sometimes lies dormant. Right? And then you go
mhm.
into another relationship, or you go into even a conversation and you're triggered, right? You're physiologically aroused by something that's happened in front of you, and you don't know how to typically, you wouldn't respond how you would typically respond. Sometimes you're responding to what happened before in the present moment. And so that trauma takes you um, out of whack, right? You're disassociating, right? You're not really present. You need to kind of center yourself and say, am I experiencing something right now? Or is this something that happened before? Because sometimes we lead with our previous experiences and tell the person in front of us, you're doing what such and such did to me. And sometimes we penalize the person that's in front of us for something that a person did before.
That part. Oh, I have so many comments on that, but yes, that's so true. There's one last question that I'm going to turn over to Dr. Vicky. A couple things. One person says, what states are you licensed to practice in?
We are located in the DMV, so DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
Okay, but if someone's calling from Texas or Illinois, no? So
So I
just,
can refer them. We can do
okay.
coaching. We can coaching, but I'm not licensed in those states. We're not licensed in those states, so we would do coaching.
But coaching can be really helpful. I have a ton of coaches, and that can be sometimes equally helpful. So coaching availability in all states, but therapy type of specific services in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Is that
Right.
correct? Okay, awesome. Well, I want to thank you for being here this morning. I want to share. Have been incredible and shared all kinds of wonderful wisdom with us today. So I appreciate you. I
Thank you.
want to share that we have a couple of big events this week happening. We have something called Sisters Unfiltered for people that have asked for weekend sessions. Dr. Vicki Johnson will be hosting that. That is coming up on Wednesday evening. There is a separate registration link for that. Wednesday evening, and the link is in the chat. There's also a special men's only support group call that we are hosting. Dr. Halim Ali, who's been a guest here in the past, will be hosting that this Friday. I'm sorry, Thursday evening, same time, 7:30 p.m. Thursday evening, previously hosted by Dr. Rick Wallace. Rest in peace. He passed away, as we've shared here previously. So Dr. Ali is stepping into those big shoes Thursday evening, and we'll be hosting Brothers Unfiltered. So Wednesday night, Sisters Unfiltered, Thursday night for men only, and excited about both of those additional opportunities for support and encouragement and help in the evening versus the Sunday morning call. So I am going to say thank you again and turn it over to Dr. Vicki Johnson to close us out in a prayer.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Bashe. I want to call you Dr. Williams so bad. Uh, this
One day.
was incredible. Thank you so much. I know that our community here would love to have you back. I mean, there was just so much to unpack. Thank you for your transparency and your vulnerability, because it just opened up so much in each of us. So God bless you. Thank you again, Kelli, for pressing through your morning to show up consistently for us here in this community. Let's pray. God, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given to us. We are rejoicing. We're grateful. We're glad. We thank you for grace that is sufficient in our lives, new mercy that you extend to us every morning, and favor that surrounds us. I pray now that you exponentially increase with harvest, hearts and mind counseling, and the work that Bashe and his team are doing in the world. Thank you for the SonRise Project. We thank you in advance for the impact of Sisters and Brothers Unfiltered. We thank you for the work of the SonRise Project. For everyone on this call, thank you for the seeds that were deposited today, the seeds that were watered, and the increase that we will all experience because of the wisdom you have shared here today through Bashe and his experiences. Thank you for, again, his life, his work, his purpose, and all that he does. Now, God bless us for the rest of this day and allow us to come back together again on next Sunday. And we give you glory for these things. In your name we pray. Amen. Have a powerful day, everyone.
Amen. Thank you, Dr. Vicky, big sister and mentor friend, sister friend, all the things. I love you. Thank you for that. And Bashe, thank you so much again. Many people will be reaching out to you and have said what a wonderful morning this was and how grateful they are for you and your words of wisdom. I echo that as well. And I want to say to everybody, we will be back next Sunday. Please join us Wednesday night with Dr. Vicky Johnson. And if you have a man in your life or would like to suggest that a brother comes on to Brothers Unfiltered, that's Thursday evening. It's a safe space, men only. And that will be on Thursday evening as well. So have an incredible day.